NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch is touting a seventh straight month of reduced crime in the city, according to the crime stats data from April. Now, the NYPD will now shift its policing strategy for the summer months, where historically crime has risen in the city. Let's bring in CBS News law enforcement contributor and former deputy commissioner with the NYPD, Richard Esposito. Hey, Richard, good to see you.
Good morning.
So, a lot of cops I know, they always talk about, hey, when it gets warmer, that let the shooting begin, so to speak, in some areas. Yesterday, we reported on a deadly stray bullet shooting in the Fordham Heights section of the Bronx. Now, the shooting actually took place at an NYPD summer violence zone. So what exactly are these zones? How are they supposed to work? I guess, what was the failure in yesterday's?
So it actually wasn't a failure. The zones are the most violent areas that they've identified. So in the past, there were 69 zones, which encompass about 9% of the city. And in those areas, more than 29% of the shootings. Now, these are past numbers, and I expect we'll see some refinements when the city announces what they're going to do this summer at the end of the week. Those zones are flooded with cops. What happens is they've identified the zones, and then largely between the evening hours and the early morning hours, they flood those very specific areas with cops.
So obviously it plays out in the numbers too. Police Commissioner Tisch saying yesterday that the summer violence plan, now way back, if you go back to 2019, they had the all-out plan, which saw a 36% reduction in murders, 16% reduction in shootings. I guess it's safe to say when you look back historically at those numbers, that's along the lines of what you just said. You got to kind of flood the zone with police officers, and you're going to see a dramatic drop in numbers and obviously safety throughout that area.
Yeah, and this is a good refinement of that. And what they've done is they've taken it to where it used to be send cops out for months to these various areas, and now it's send cops out exactly where you want them, when you need them, for a day, for a week, whatever it takes. So, we'll see as, we march towards the 4th of July and the crowds get bigger and the weather gets warmer and tempers get shorter and drinking increases and sleep people on the street. You'll see these cops moving and deploying to areas where there are crowds and where there's potential. They'll be there in advance.
So, Richard, take me through. Is it kind of like a day-to-day change where they'll just shift just based on where the numbers are? So it's not necessarily, I know you mentioned they'll be there for a day or so, but is it just kind of like we're just kind of moving all around the city to find the hot spots?
They'll move to the hot spots. So they'll use drones to identify crowds when that's part of it. They'll use Sprinter vans filled with cops to move them quickly. And they'll also have cops pre-deployed in the areas they've already identified as potentially violent, so they can move quickly to an incident or be there before the incident happens, which is one of the goals of this program.
Let me ask you, the factors that impact crime in the summer, is it as simple as some of the things we just mentioned? It's warmer out and people are just there's more tourists in the area and people are outside more?
Yeah, there's a lot of science behind rises in crimes, but at the end of the day, more people are outside in the summer. There are bigger crowds. People's tempers get shorter. And historically, there's been, the data over, let's say, the past couple of decades shows crime goes up in the summer. So it is, at the end of the day, fairly simple. Like this weekend, it's cool and rainy. Not as many people outside.
And let me just ask you before I do let you go, if you could put yourself in Jessica Tisch's shoes for just a moment, what do you think the primary focus is for this summer?
I think they're going to look at the neighborhoods that are traditionally have big rises in crime. So North Brooklyn, the Bronx, these are areas where you've seen a lot of violent crime in the summer in the past. I think she's going to introduce some more refinements, and the mayor's going to probably talk about coordination between the police and parks, lifeguards, OEM, and try to keep a more integrated approach. We'll see.
All right. Richard, thank you. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. We'll talk to you next week, okay?
Yeah, it's good to see you.
All right, Richard Esposito once again. You can find more of our conversations with Richard on our website at cbsnewyork.com.